Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. And in today's video, I am continuing my ranking every single Beatles song, and I am getting close to the end here where I have 15 songs left to talk about, and I'm going to talk about 5 of them on this video, number 15 through number 11. So these are obviously some of the cream of the crop songs as we get close to my top 10 favorite Beatles songs of all time, and probably my top 10 favorite songs of all time as well. I mean, definitely most of them are my top favorite, as Beatles is my favorite band. He wrote some of the greatest music of all time. So stay tuned to hear my thoughts here on these 5 songs here on Jason the Old Millennial. Hello, hope everybody's doing well here on Monday afternoon. It's of course Labor Day here in America, so a lot of people have the day off. Unfortunately, I don't because I work in healthcare, but I hope everybody's, those that can get the day off, is enjoying their day off, spending time with family and all that. So so continuing my list of ranking every single Beatles song. I'm now in my top 15, so I mean 15 absolutely amazing songs, and going with 15 through 11. I mean, it's hard to, at this point, it's like they're all so great. It's hard to really, which ones do I like more? They're all just fantastic, but still it's fun to put these together and try to reason why I put them in here as a big Beatles fan. And I think everybody would agree these are really top Beatles songs. So I don't think there's any hot takes here. I think a lot of people would agree these should be pretty high up. So hopefully everybody would agree with me on these. So first I got number 15. This absolutely amazing song that I think could be number 1 on a lot of people's lists, and I wouldn't blame them for putting it number 1. And that is Strawberry Fields Forever. Absolutely huge hit song. One that, if you're Beatles, I mean, if you casually even know the Beatles, you probably know this song. Or if you're a casual music fan, you probably heard this one. It's one that's played quite a bit on the radio and, associated with the Beatles. Played on probably different, movies and stuff like that. Anyways, this came out in 1967 as a single, actually, the double A side single with Penny Lane. It actually went number 2 in the UK, number 8 in the US, which is a shocker how this didn't go number 1. I mean, this is like the greatest A side of all time, double A side of all time. Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane. I mean, absolutely amazing 2 songs. And I don't know how that didn't go number 1. That just baffles me. That didn't happen. Both huge hits, obviously, at this time. They wrote this around the time. This is a Lennon McCartney song, but it's mostly John really wrote it. Wrote it about a orphanage, I believe, that was across or was close by. That he took the name off to make the song, which it has nothing really to do about the orphanage. I don't think necessarily. I don't know exactly what it's about, but it does have kind of a interesting, haunting style to it. I like a lot. And this was a really significant song, I think, in the Beatles' history, in fact, because in 1966, they basically quit touring and just decided that we're just going to spend all our time in the studio and, do more, mixes and, layering stuff on top of each other and making these just absolutely amazing studio albums. They're already great already, but definitely making these so these songs are almost pretty much impossible to play live. You can only hear it in the studio. So definitely making the album stronger in that sense, I think. Anyways, and there was a time period where we really didn't see the Beatles. They weren't really doing a lot of TV stuff at this time. They weren't touring anymore. I wouldn't say Beatlemania is starting to die down or anything. They're still the biggest band in the world at this time, but they've definitely been the biggest for several years. They're 3-4 years now, and well, in America probably 3 years or so. And so now we're coming to this. They're working on this album, Sgt. Pepper's, which is the biggest album for them of all time probably, and arguably a huge album. And definitely get into the psychedelic period of their time period. But it was like when this came out in a music video. They did a whole music video thing, and definitely was very trippy. They're walking backwards in the video, and a lot of things that really changed. Of course, the music style is changing a little bit, like I said, to more psychedelic. They're using more horns and orchestra music into their music, doing different sound effects, backwards guitars and all kinds of interesting instruments layered in. And definitely shows it on this song, Strawberry Fields Forever. But it's also the first time the Beatles really changed their look as well. They changed it from the clean cut, wearing suits and the shaggy hair cut, to they all had different hairstyles kind of at this point, starting to have facial hair. John was wearing the granny glasses. They were wearing different like psychedelic outfits. So it definitely was like, wow, the Beatles are, I guess, getting older, more maybe a little more mature, and they're definitely looking like the times of the 60s, and nice drug, and they definitely were starting to take acid and all this. So it definitely seemed like a big change in the Beatles' look and their style, with still being absolutely great, magnificent. So that's interesting. If you watch that music video, it was definitely like kind of a game changer, I think, in music and the Beatles' career. And it really was kind of the birth of the music video that would become really more popular, maybe in the 70s, especially in the 80s. It got music video, and MTV got really huge. But anyway, so saying all that, yeah, it's a great song. Love the beginning. Love the I don't know the Mellotron or the different keyboards playing together, making this very unique sound. And they have this very interesting like sound, let me take you down, and it has like this really cool sound effect there. And the horns, the orchestra music, or whatever, is just absolutely amazing. Really makes it even better, I think. And it's an interesting song lyrically. I think really good. I love the lyric of living life is easy with eyes closed, misunderstanding all you see. Really great lyric, but there's a lot of great stuff that but I think he's in my tree or something like that. And some very interesting lyrics like that, but obviously great build up to the chorus, the let me take you down because I'm going to strawberry. It's such a great chorus, great melodies. Like I said, the horns and the orchestra, oh, it's so amazing. Really heightens this song up even better than it was already. And John just really, really great great vocally in this. Just kind of a beautiful, haunting song that I absolutely love. And it's here at number 15, Strawberry Fields Forever. Number 14, I should say, Strawberry Fields Forever. Number 14 is Penny Lane, by the way, associated with Strawberry Fields. The two double A sides. I had to put them back to back. They're both amazing songs, and I had to put them together here. So number 14 is Penny Lane, the other A side, which it's hard to say. They're both so great, and there's definitely a debate of which one's better, Strawberry Fields or Penny Lane. And I put Penny Lane just a little above Strawberry Fields, with both amazing songs. But they both came out, like John, they basically were, John wanted to come out with a single and Paul wanted to come out with a single. And so John came out with Strawberry Fields, Paul came out with Penny Lane. They both were kind of interesting because they both were, Penny Lane's a street in Liverpool. So they both songs were describing places in Liverpool. So it's interesting, and kind of almost a piece of their childhood. It feels like they were trying to come up with a song reminiscing about their childhood in some senses. So they're very similar in that style. And they both were so good, they just made a double A side because they couldn't decide which one could be the B side on it. And this could have came on the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album, which would have made the album even better than it already is. And a lot of people agree that they wish they could have put these two singles on there. But they normally didn't put singles on their album, so this came just singles separately. And it's huge, even though it didn't go number one, but went number 2 in the UK anyways, and still a huge singles. It did come on the Magical Mystery Tour album. The Magical Mystery Tour album was basically a soundtrack to the movie Magical Mystery Tour, which also came out right after Sgt. Pepper's album in 1967. It was the next one they came out with. They made this movie and made the songs to fit the movie. So when they came out with the album, it was just the music from the movie. And so then, I forget exactly the history, but at some point they decided to make it a full album, because at the time it was only like a double, what they call a double EP or something like that, or double L, something like that. And then they decided they want to make it like an album, so they need to add more songs to it to make it like a full album. So then they took all the singles that they did up to that point that weren't on any albums, of course, and put them on the second side. So the first side of Magical Mystery Tour is the songs from the movie. The second side is the singles. And so and I think that was a great idea, personally, because they got to put, great songs like Sergeant Pepper or like Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane on there. So that's why Magical Mystery Tour is like one of my favorite albums of all time, one of my favorite Beatles albums. I like it even better than Sergeant Pepper's, which might be surprising to a lot of people, but I think a lot of that is because they put really good singles like this on there that really made that album even better. If they would have put on Sergeant Pepper's, that would have made that album better, but they end up saving it for that album. So anyways, so that's a little bit of history of what happened to these songs anyways. But yeah, Penny Lane, again, Paul McCartney, just amazing. This is just amazing, uplifting, just a happy pop song. This is one of those songs, I had to put it up here at number 14, because this is a song where I listen to it and I'm immediately like happy at the end. I don't know how to explain it, but there's a couple songs like this, where you listen to it and I just can't help but smile, because I don't know, something about the horns that just give you this really great feeling inside, the sound of it anyways. But yeah, I love the horns in this. There's like a little bit of a horn solo in there, maybe a French horn or something does a little solo, or maybe might be just a trumpet or something. They do a solo in there, but yeah, it's just a really fun, just a pop song, real catchy, and kind of describing, the like everyday life of this, this Penny Lane, the street, talking about the barbershop. And there's some good lyrics of like, the barber has pictures of every head he's ever known, talking about, he's taking pictures, I guess, of people after he gives them a haircut. And there's, the line of, firefighters come in from the pouring rain, very strange, and it goes right in there. Great chorus of, Penny Lane's in my ears and my eyes, something about the blue skies. Anyways, and they kind of come together in good vocal harmonies in the chorus as well. But yeah, such a great fun song that just brightens my day every time I hear it. So that's why I got Penny Lane here at number 14. All right, so number 13, I have a song off of Revolver, and that is Eleanor Rigby. Lennon McCartney song, but it's really Paul wrote this song. And it's a very significant song in that it's the only song that doesn't have any drums or any guitar on it. It's all orchestra music, which is a very interesting style. That it's like none of the Beatles played on it. They just sing on it, and the background's just orchestra music, which it's the only time they've ever done that. And I never really realized that till I feel like maybe 5 years ago. I was listening to the song and I was like, you know what? That's all orchestra music, and it's cool, because by the time you get to Revolver, we're definitely doing more experimentation. Like I talked about Tomorrow Never Knows, that song I talked about in my last video. Definitely experimenting on different sounds and getting more psychedelic and doing a lot more experimentations and all that. And even this is kind of experimentation to me, in that they didn't have any guitars or drums in it, something different that they never done before, and it totally worked, and that's how great the Beatles were. They can do something new and different and kind of set the trends and be amazing at it all. Anyways, and so Eleanor Rigby, coming off the Revolver album, like I said, it's such a great album, because it has, good heavy rock songs on it, and then it has some really beautiful songs, and it has a song like this, which is hauntingly beautiful, I guess I would call it. But again, the orchestra is amazing. That's why I think I love this song so much, and it's number 13 on my list, because it's probably my favorite orchestra arrangement that maybe, if not my favorite, definitely way up there. My favorite orchestra arrangement that they did. And I don't know if Paul sometimes does the arranging, sometimes George Martin's really good at arranging orchestra music, so I'm guessing either Paul or George Martin was doing the arranging of all that, which I don't know how they do that. It wouldn't be surprising. I think Paul did that sometimes, and that's just how Paul was just a genius when it comes to music ability and all that, and just being the best at everything musically, it seems like. But yeah, so and lyrically, I think it's one of their best songs lyrically. I mean, it kind of really paints the story of this. Eleanor Rigby is I believe Paul got the idea because he saw, well, he didn't know, he came up with the name, but then later someone saw was on a graveyard, saw the name Eleanor Rigby on a what do you call it, on a graveyard site, whatever. And Paul says that he didn't write the song off of that, but yet Paul like went by that cemetery, I think, and so there's ideas of that Paul maybe subconsciously, remembered that name, and when he came up with the name for the song, he somehow brought that name up, but I don't know. But it's just kind of interesting coincidence that there was an Eleanor Rigby in at a gravesite in Liverpool, and he's writing about it. Anyways, but it's kind of seems like a song. The chorus is interesting because it's like all the lonely people, where do they all come from? So there's definitely a theme of loneliness in it, in the song. It feels like Eleanor Rigby, she like kind of a loner, seems like. She sits like in the back of the church or something like that, I believe it talks about. And I think she dies, and it's like, because there's a funeral, there's a whole part about a funeral, and there's a character named Father Mackenzie who's getting ready for the funeral, writing the sermon all night. Anyways, and there's some great stuff, like I think talking about keeping her face on a jar by the door. And as a kid, I was like, a face in a jar? Like, I'm thinking like a literal face. I'm like, that's pretty grotesque. Just keeping a face in a jar. But like, I thought that was such a weird line. And then later find out that it was really talking about like makeup, because women put makeup on. And I think sometimes they reference to putting my face on because, that's kind of what everybody sees them as, is what their makeup is, what they look like to everybody. Anyway, so great lyric though, very, descriptive way of just saying she has makeup. And there's a lot of stuff like that. And one of my favorite lines is about Father Mackenzie. He's working on the sermon to give at the funeral, and he's gonna give like this, evangelical message of, believe in Jesus and be saved and all this, so he's really kind of getting, excited for this. I don't know if that's the right word, but to, give the sermon and hopefully, maybe evangelize to people at the funeral. But then he comes to the funeral and nobody came to the funeral. And so all this message about, probably being saved, no one was there to hear it. And so there's a line about, working on this sermon and getting there, nobody came, and then it ends with, nobody was saved. And I always thought that was a very interesting line. Nobody was saved. I'm like, what does he mean nobody was saved? And that, I interpret it as mean that nobody heard the gospel message nobody came to the funeral, so no one heard his gospel message, so nobody was saved by what he was going to say. So, which is a very interesting, idea and line, and lyrically, just definitely adds to the hauntingness of the song about being lonely and dying and no one come to your funeral. So yeah, just absolutely beautiful lyrics. Not beautiful lyrics, but absolutely amazing lyrics. Beautiful music, and Paul just knocking it out of the park here on Eleanor Rigby at number 13 on my list. All right, number 12, another Paul McCartney song. I think probably the best love song that the Beatles and Paul McCartney ever wrote, and that is Here, There, and Everywhere at number 12. This also came off the Revolver album. Like I said, great rock songs like Angel Bird Can Sing and She Said, She Said, Taxman, and then you get Eleanor Rigby in Here, There, and Everywhere, and For No One, these amazing piano ballad type songs or orchestra ballad type songs. But yeah, this kind of Revolver. Paul wrote it for Jane Asher. Who else? He wrote tons of love songs for Jane Asher, and this is his best one. It's funny, he wrote Here, There, and Everywhere and For No One for Jane Asher, which one's about being in love with somebody and wanting them with them everywhere they go. The other song's about kind of going through a breakup. So he definitely must have gone through a lot with Jane Asher in 1966. Must have been a big year for that relationship. I'm guessing that's where it kind of went all awry. But interesting thing about like Revolver, of course, when they made Rubber Soul, Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys, just was blown away by Rubber Soul. It was like, this is like the perfect album. The way they arranged it and put together, and the studio work that did. And so it inspired Brian Wilson to want to make an album as great as Rubber Soul. And so he worked on Pet Sounds, would be Pet Sounds anyways. And he came out with Pet Sounds, I believe, right after in that period. And it was absolutely amazing albums, one of the greatest albums of all time by many people. I think it's the best Beach Boys album by far. And one of the best songs ever written is God Only Knows. Is one of my favorite songs of all time. Definitely best song from the Beach Boys and on the album Pet Sounds. And so Here, There, and Everywhere was, anyway, so Pet Sounds really inspired the Beatles to be like, oh wow, this is one of the best albums I've ever heard. And the studio work that Brian Wilson did was just absolutely amazing. And so it kind of inspired the Beatles to try to outdo the Pet Sounds. And so they're like, oh, we got to up our game again and come up with something. Anyway, so they were kind of inspired for like Revolver and Sgt. Pepper's. They were really, even though all their albums like Rubber Soul was an amazing album, they continued trying to get better because of Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys. And so Here, Then, Everywhere was very inspired by God Only Knows. I think God Only Knows is probably Paul's favorite song, one of his favorite songs. Not that he didn't write, of course. And I think of the song, I think he even said like he wished he wrote that song or something like that. Like, you know, I think everybody really respected Brian Wilson and that song especially. And so I think Paul definitely wanted to write a song up to those standards, God Only Knows. And so that's what he come up with Here, There, and Everywhere, which is, like I said, beautiful love song, great piano work here. Very great, you know, lovely lyrics about, you know, like I said, it's a great, even the title, I love, you know, you love so much you want to be here, there, you want to be everywhere. You know, just want to be around them all the time and thinking about them when you're not around them, you know. Yeah, just a very lovely song. This is like maybe the perfect like wedding song. I've gone to weddings and heard the song played. It's like I said, it's the best love song I think they've ever done, and that's why I got here at number 12. It's just absolutely amazing lyrics, musically, Paul just being the best, the best, you know, writer, piano player and song, you know, singer there is. I mean, he's just absolutely amazing, and that definitely solidifies it there with Here, There, and Everywhere at number 12. All right, so last song I'll talk about, and I've been talking quite a bit. It's fun talking about these songs and why I love them, but number 11 is another Paul McCartney song, and this is Blackbird at number 11. Barely missing out on top 10, but definitely worth a top 10 type song. And this comes off of the White Album, or the Beatles self-titled album, which we call the White Album. Lennon McCartney song, but it's really a Paul singing it. It's really just him. Like, the other Beatles really aren't involved in the song. Just him and acoustic guitar, basically. And it's just, I love, like I said, some of my favorite songs are Paul McCartney and just a piano, Paul McCartney and just acoustic guitar. And especially his acoustic guitar work is just some of the best ever. The way he finds these picking patterns that go well. So, and this is probably my favorite as far as that goes. I mean, this is probably one of my favorite songs to play on the guitar. I think anybody who has acoustic guitar learns this song because it's so fun to play the bum, 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 bum. Blackbird singing I mean, just the way it all flows together, playing the guitar and his voice. It's simple, but just absolutely amazing. I love listening to, really what I guess makes this so high, I love the guitar on this. I love the acoustic guitar on this, and the way he plays it. And he even has like this false finish of him, bum, 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 bum. And you're thinking, is the song over? And he does this little slide guitar thing, bum, 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 bum. And he goes back into the melody of it, and it's like, oh, that sounds so great. Like, and to hear him sing, I heard him sing this live, and it was absolutely amazing when I went to the Paul McCartney concert back in 2017. I mean, I think he plays towards the end. I don't know if this was a encore song or it was towards the end, I think. And he played this. Oh, so beautiful. Even at 75, it's just amazing to hear him sing this song. It's really interesting song. It definitely is like the song Blackbird's definitely like an analogy of someone who's going through hard times, and him kind of giving these comforting words to someone who's going through hard times, you know, saying, you know, take this broken wing and learn to fly, you know, like mending somebody who's, you know, broken. And I think it's an analogy for broken, not physically maybe, just but spiritually, maybe emotionally broken, and saying, hey, you know, keep going, you know, and all this. So it's a very kind of uplifting song in a way that I really like. And Paul said before that it's written about the racial strife that happened at the time, the 60s, the civil rights movement, and Blackbird kind of be representation of the what was happening to black people at the time and how they were suffering. And so it was an encouraging song to those people at that time. So yeah, so it's a great message behind it, I think. Lyrically, really wonderful. Like I said, the guitar is so great, and Paul, just altogether, just one of the fantastic songs ever. That's why it's at number 11 on my list, Blackbird. So, all right, so that's my 15 through 11. That's a lot to say. This is a little bit longer video than I usually make, but it's hard not to go on and on about the greatness of these songs. So next time I'll be getting to my top 10 favorite Beatles songs. Hopefully everybody will enjoy my thoughts on that. Hopefully enjoy my thoughts on these songs, and hopefully please comment what you think about these 5 songs. Am I having them about, maybe it should be even higher on my list, but do you agree that these songs are about where they should be? Should they be lower or whatever? Love to read the comments, what you think about these 5 songs. And just really thankful for everybody who's watching this video. Thank you for liking it. And really a lot of thanks to all my subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate you all and hope you have a good day.